ago, Cam Thomas was averaging almost 25 points a game. However, this season, he was cut 2 different times by 2 different teams. He went from declining a $30 million contract less than a year ago to not even being on a team anymore. And by the way, when he was first offered that deal, lots of people said that it was a lowball. At the time, Cam said he was looking for 30 or 40 million a year. It's crazy how quickly the situation went from betting on yourself to maybe I am the problem. See, Cam is a solid player and a high-level scorer. He's not elite like some say, but there's a lot of things he does well. He's got a good handle and can knock down extremely difficult shots like it's nothing. The only issue is that's all he really provides. Don't get me wrong, you can have a successful career in the NBA being a microwave scorer. We've seen it many times. The difference is Cam thinks he's much more than just that. And it's even okay to think that, but when it's getting in the way of you actually becoming that is when things need to be addressed. You don't just get waived from a team in the middle of the season because you've been playing bad. That only happens when there's something else going on behind the scenes, which was definitely happening because we saw the same thing going on when he was in Brooklyn. If you want to become that do-it-all player like you view yourself, then great, you should, but let's buy into a basic role first before we go straight for the franchise player. This is year 5 for Cam, and we've yet to see him buy into a single role. Averaging 20 plus points on a tanking team isn't a real role to buy into. If anything, it probably gave him a false sense of value. He has the baseline ability to be in the league for several years, but the mentality and willingness to improve his weaknesses just isn't there right now. He's become a better playmaker over the years, but it's still not where it needs to be for the role he wants to play, and his effort on the defensive end is still non-existent. I'm not going to go over every little thing that's happened leading up to this point, but I did make a video talking about everything before the season even started. After not getting the contract that he was hoping to get in the offseason, Cam decided to go back to the Nets on a $6 million qualifying offer. The Nets did reportedly offer him a 2-year, $28 million contract, yet Cam decided to decline it and go in on a prove-it deal. So the whole goal for him this year was to prove himself enough to get a big contract by the end of the 25-26 season. Unfortunately, that's not what happened at all. Cam did have a few really good performances, like his 41.0 assist night against the Spurs only 3 games into the season. I mean, he also scored 33 points 2 days before that against Cleveland. Those scoring explosions were there, they were just super inconsistent. Plus, the nagging injuries that always come up with him limited how much time he was able to be on the court in the first place. He started coming off the bench for the Nets when he first came back from his hamstring injury and wouldn't start another game for the rest of the year. Cam's value tanked so much that the Nets weren't even able to move him at the trade deadline. He wasn't scoring at the clip or efficiency that he once was, and if he isn't doing the only thing that he's really good at, then the value just isn't there. He does technically have a no-trade clause because of the qualifying contract he's on, so that definitely could have played a part, but still. Not being able to get anything in return to the point where cutting him is the best option tells you everything you need to know. For the Nets, it sucks you couldn't get anything for him, but you're almost happy simply not having that lingering situation going on anymore. At one point, Cam had leverage, but by then, that was long gone. Everyone was saying how Cam isn't a winning player and that he should have just accepted that 2-year contract the Nets gave him in the offseason. However, after playing his final game for Brooklyn on February 3rd, he signed with the Milwaukee Bucks a few days later. The Bucks front office and head coach Doc Rivers all sounded super excited to be adding him for nothing in the middle of the season. Bucks GM John Hurst said that Cam will be a key part of the team's ability to contend this season and in the future. Then Doc Rivers said that he's had Jamal Crawford and Lou Williams, and now he has Cam Thomas. Basically inciting that Cam is that 6-man microwave scorer that both of those guys were at the most important times of their careers. However, you knew things were not ultimately going to work out as soon as we heard Cam's response to that. He said that it means a lot and then went on to talk about how he's much more than a scorer and that his playmaking is a really underrated part of his game, which is the complete opposite of what Doc was saying. He was trying to get him to understand his role without directly saying it to him. Cam Thomas has me defending Doc Rivers right now. Despite all that, things did get really good before they got bad. Cam suited up right away. He only shot 1 for 5 in his first night, but the very next game things would completely change. They played the Orlando Magic again, yet this time he put up a stat line of 34 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. The craziest part is he did all of that in only 25 minutes while coming off the bench. He was extremely efficient and was definitely his best performance of the season so far. This is that game where he hit the dagger and created the meme of Giannis staring him down. That's not where things peaked though. 2 games later and in the first game back from the All-Star break, he scored 27 points in only 20 minutes against the Pelicans. That includes 16 straight points, by the way. It was another actually really good performance. He wasn't able to knock down many threes, but showed his ability to score in multiple different ways. The casual fan base was going crazy during this time. You can go back and look at the comments right now. People were saying the Nets were dumb for letting him walk for nothing and that the Bucks got an elite score for literally nothing. Sadly though, I call this the peak for a reason. Cam would still have good games here and there, but he wouldn't come close to those nights for the next 13 games. He wasn't terrible, but he was playing inefficiently and his minutes started to fluctuate after that. To give you an example of the kind of player Cam is, he had a game against Atlanta where he only played 3 minutes, yet somehow managed to get up 3 shot attempts, not making any and didn't accumulate any other stat. During that final stretch is also when he would say that the Brooklyn Nets don't believe in anybody, which is super ironic because he would be cut less than a month later from his new team. The sell for Cam is high volume scoring and he wasn't doing that for the Bucks or the Nets. This is simply the player he's always been. He played the exact same way in college and even did the same thing in the summer league. Does anyone else remember Steve Nash literally calling him out? Honestly, he was just trying to help him. Like I said earlier, you don't cut a player in the middle of the season only because they're struggling. Something else was clearly happening behind the scenes. When Doc Rivers was asked about it, all he said is there are things that we don't need to talk about and that it's not anybody's business. Which is not only extremely discreet, but only makes you want to know more. How bad could it possibly be? It's not like the Bucks see any benefit out of cutting him. I said in my last video about him that this year will tell us everything we need to know and that I am still rooting for him, but the problem is obviously him. With the talent Cam has, there is no reason he shouldn't be in the league. He's still technically able to